Mic'd up.
Hello, Yankee fans. Welcome to Yankees Coast to Coast. I'm with my co-host, the great Michael Miller.
I don't know about great.
I rescind that statement. The thoroughly average Michael Miller.
Still debatable, but I'll live with that one.
And I'm here. As you know, my name is Adam Schneider, and we are Yankee crazy right now. How are you feeling about everything, my friend? Do you think we've got what it takes?
I had some Chinese food today, so I'm a little tired. But I am ready to go. I did some prep work even for today's show, as opposed to my fly by the seat of my pants and pull back out of my butt.
Your usual winging of it.
Mm-hmm. I try to wing it, you know.
Well, today is my busy day, so I have to work. Unlike you, I have to earn my keep. So
I'm telling you, you need your wife to keep you in the lifestyle in which you've grown accustomed.
She does try. She tries very hard, but I'm so expensive. It's all these afternoons and evenings doing podcast stuff, taking me away from my focus.
I am not cheap, but I am easy.
I want to ask you a question. And we're going to do a position by position analysis. Yep. And then we'll talk about our general feelings. But when you were faced with the Tigers or the Indians, what did you feel about what was the downside of the Indians winning to you? Go ahead.
Well, the fact that they're not the Indians.
All right, the Guardians. I'm so embarrassed.
Actually, once it got to Game 5 and Scooble had to pitch, I was not as afraid of the Tigers as I would have been. But Tigers winning before Game 5 would have been the red hot team coming in. But as you know, I picked the Guardians to win that series because of their relentless batting order. So, I was still thinking the Guardians. But I would have thought the Yankees would have a better chance against the Tigers because I don't think they were as deep, but they were the hot team, as they say in the song. Hot, hot, hot.
Can you sing it for us, Mike? I want to hear you.
No, that's the only words. That's the only words I know. Is that Dexter Poindexter song?
I don't know. I'm sort of somewhat retrograde when it comes to musical skills.
Well, it was around when we were in high school, so that's.
I know. My wife makes fun of me all the time. She says, "What were you doing in high school?" I said, "I was doing needlepoint." I don't know. I wasn't listening to on my bed with a transistor radio in my ear like she was, and everyone else apparently in my generation.
Whoa, losing my technology here for a second.
Did you drop it? Did you drop your?
I dropped my iPad, but stuff happens.
We got to see the inside of your nose in a way that was scary beyond human comprehension.
Well, I was just trying to show you what Kramer has going for him.
Yes, you did.
So, from that standpoint, I thought the Guardians are the better team, and they would give the Yankees a tougher series. As you know, I picked the Guardians over the Yankees originally in this series. Let's see if I stick to it. But what did you think of Tigers Guardians? What were you thinking?
I was worried about the hot hand. I really felt that this was I know we always say it's not a crapshoot, but the team that gets hot does have an advantage. One is fighting, and I thought they were in there, and I thought that having them and the Mets on the other side was dangerous for any of the more conventional teams like the Yankees that were just kind of getting in based on. We know the Yankees weren't great in the second 100 games of the year or so.
46, 48 the last 94 games.
Yeah, so not a good sign. So I was worried about the hot hand, but ultimately it came down to just the best relief pitching I've in the league and timely hitting. And they weren't even at their best.
Just so you know, the reason it's not a crapshoot is because the hot hand wins. That's my argument against it being a crapshoot, is that the hot team wins, the hot hitters win, the hot pitching wins, the hot bullpen wins. And what's funny is, Clase allowed 5 runs all season. and allowed 3 in this series against
Well,
Detroit.
but that
So
also happens for a reason. Why do you think that happens?
because Detroit is a better team and they're hot and they're a better team than when they play against the White Sox 17 times in a season.
The stakes are very, very high, and you're right. Both those teams benefit from playing the White Sox a lot. So I think that but it comes down to
As
when
do,
they're
as do
playing.
Kansas City. I mean, that's the other reason 3 of those teams made the playoffs is they got
Yeah,
to play against the White Sox 17 times or 13, 15, whatever the number of games is, just like the Yankees and the Red Sox used to benefit from playing the Orioles all those times.
that's right. That is darn true. You're darn tootin'.
Darn tootin'.
So I'm very pleased that it's not them. I was worried about uh, that hot hand. I think that they could probably handle this team in some ways, assuming they can get. And we'll talk about this, assuming that we can get
I
beyond
put it this
into the
way,
fifth.
I think the Yankees are the better team.
Yeah, they are.
That doesn't mean anything because like Castellanos said or whoever it was um, said that the Phillies are a better team, but the Mets were better in the series.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it really comes down to that, and we'll see what happens with regard to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The so let's get right to it. Let's start with first base.
All right. You want me to answer my feeling?
Well, I mean, I have Cabrera and Birdie as the first baseman. Rizzo's a question mark, so I still have it, but I don't think it would change too much against Josh Naylor
Yeah.
for the
Um,
for the Guardians.
mhm. Who do you think
By
is
the way,
the
the
advantage?
Yankees won the season series 4-2,
Four to
even though
two.
they were outscored, but that's because the Guardians scored 9 runs in one game.
In that ridiculous game where they gave up 6 runs in the 11th or 12th inning in a
Yeah,
tie game that they should have won anyway because of I think who was it was I
probably
think it was
Torres.
Ferguson's last game. It was Ferguson
Mm.
blowing the last game of the last inning, and then but it was Ferguson and it was the other guy the Yankees got. Who was the other?
Gonzalez,
Um, hmm?
Gonzalez or De Los Santos.
Gonzalez. So the two Dodger guys, I guess, the Yankees got both of them had their bad game, and both are we all know are no longer living.
As
Um,
far as the Yankees are concerned. Yeah. So what do you think?
I think Rizzo is an important. I hope it's Rizzo because I think this is another contact-oriented team. So that means we need our best. They need their best infield. They need their strongest. They need their guys going out and really going all out to make these plays. So that means bad throws. I think we got really lucky with Birdie, and I'm not saying lucky because they're not able to catch the ball. I'm just saying it's hard to do it 10 times. And if there are going to be a lot of ground balls, you've got a guy like Kwan who is going to be making contact. Strikes out once in the series. It's going to be amazing.
How did you
Um,
get off of the first baseman already?
I'm still on first base. I'm saying that a guy like Kwan is going to be making contact, hitting the ball on the ground in the hole. We need to have we need Volpe and Jazz comfortably diving after balls and making lousy throws from their knees. And I want Rizzo in that role. I want Rizzo there. I do believe Rizzo's coming back because I had from my little inside source that he's coming back, and we'll see if that or the question is he will be on the roster. Will he start? That's still a question of whether or not they're going to do that. But I believe they're going to. They want Rizzo in there, so that's my feeling. Naylor, ultimately, the Guardians still are the better team because Naylor had a 31 home run season. So yeah, he's the bigger threat, but I got having a big defender in there is more important now than ever. My opinion.
Well, I think the Guardians have an edge regardless. I also think that Naylor has a history of performing against the Yankees in the and
Except,
that Cole, not Cone,
remember
Cole.
this?
Yes,
Remember
that's what
this?
he did, and then Cole struck him out after that.
And
It did wake up the
he's been
Yankees.
terrible ever since. He has
Yeah.
not been
So,
hitting.
but
He's not been the same guy.
I think Naylor has the edge there as far as Rizzo and him coming back with two fingers on his right hand, his pinky and his index finger on his right hand, you know, I don't know what the players in the majors do. I know that the players I coach in the high school and the college, they they put these two fingers in the pinky hole now
Hmm. Yeah.
together. And that's how they hold
Yeah.
gloves, especially outfielders.
Yeah. That's how I
I
do
don't
it.
know how Rizzo, I mean, obviously Rizzo will have a broken in glove, but either way, I don't think Rizzo's going to hit because of that. I can't see him wrapping his fingers around. So I think
Hmm.
the edge at first base is clearly for the Guardians.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
so if we go to second base, I'll go first here since you went first there, and I'll try
Did
and
I?
stick
I thought
with
you
second
went
base.
first.
So it's Andres Jimenez against Torres. Listen, Torres's postseason career stats: 271 average, 369 on base, 457 slugging, and 826 OPS. And his 24 stats of 250 average, 400 on base,
Hmm.
467 slugging. He's on fire. I mean, he's been clearly the spark that the Yankees need at the top of the order. Jimenez
Hmm.
has not been good for his entire career in the playoffs, and he's been really bad this year in the playoffs as well. Although defensively, clearly he's got a monster edge over Torres.
Hmm.
But because Torres's offense is where it is, and it's not just last series, because when we get to talk about Stanton, I'll talk about that. Torres has been like this since September 1st. So I
Hmm.
think that this is a significant edge for the Yankees over at second base. What do you think?
I completely agree. Um, uh, Jimenez has been uh, has had two down years in a row offensively. So I think he's an excellent defender, and that's the only weakness. I think Glaber is still um, a hack at second base, and you can't count on him doing well or not doing one of his dumb things, which
Same
is
with base running.
usually and the same with base running. So base, and I put that in there: terrible D and terrible base running. His defense is it will be fine as long as he doesn't get sloppy and start to nonchalant, which I'm hoping that they have been able to convey to him. This is not something that you can do in the playoffs.
And I
You
thought
just
his
can't.
defense in the Royal Series was pretty good. But he is
Yeah,
a
it was.
he
It
is a
was.
below average defender, and Jimenez is a Gold Glover.
There's
But
no
I
question
still
about
give
it.
the edge to the Yanks.
Yankees get it. Yankees get the benefit of Glaber's heat, and he is really doing well at in that spot right now. So I'm loving it. Also, everything's to right field. He's finally hitting. Seems like every I haven't seen him try to pull a ball
Right.
in quite a while.
He's kept his hip out of the third base dugout.
Out of the toilet.
And then that
But
takes us right to shortstop, obviously, where you
mm-hmm.
got Volpe. This is his first playoffs.
Yeah,
And uh, I want to say Radicchio, but it's not. It's Rocchio.
Rocha.
Yeah, from the Guardians, and he's a rookie, and it's his first playoffs as well. Um, Volpe 250 batting average and only a 661 on base OPS, but he has a 438 on base percentage. So
Mm.
he's been getting on base. He's got no pop whatsoever in the playoffs, but he's having very good at bats, and generally speaking, he's kept his left hip out of the out of the uh, out of the left-handed box. He's got 4 walks and only 1 strikeout. So you got to like that from an
Mm.
offensive standpoint. But Rocchio has been unbelievably good
Yeah.
in his first playoffs.
Mm.
Um, and he's a good defender as well. They're talking about him potentially being a gold glove defender. And, the guy's hitting, 375 with a
Mm-hmm.
944 OPS. So
Yep.
from a standpoint of that, I'm giving a slight edge actually to the Guardians here, only because one guy is hotter than the other, but both of these guys have been very good playoff performers this year in their first playoffs.
Mm. Yeah, I'll give it to. I'm giving it to the Yankees. Um, he's had he's a solid player. Volpe is. They're both great defenders, apparently, um, but he's not. But I'm saying both are hitting in the playoffs right now. But I still think Volpe is the better hitter. Um, Roky's got six. He's got 6 hits so far, 2 doubles. Um, does strike out a little bit, so that's something we'll see. Has taken some walks, and on base percentage is the highest on the team, next to Stephen Kwan, who's on another planet. So that's important.
Steve Kwan is on another planet.
Yeah.
I can't really argue with that. And Rocchio did hit. What did he hit during the season? Not very much.
Rocchio hit. Let's just see.
206.
206.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, he's just
not
hot.
really not there.
Yeah.
With a 614 OPS to Volpe's, I think 674, was it?
Yeah.
660?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is pretty much. I agree. I mean, I gave a slight edge only because he's hotter than Volpe. But if they both return to meaning what they are, Volpe is the better player. So I can't really argue when you say.
Yeah, how many home runs did he hit this year?
Not that
he hit 8 home runs.
Yeah.
36 RBIs. He's not a speed burner. He's got 10 stolen bases. It's okay. Nothing great, but apparently not on base enough to make it worthwhile.
Right. And now we get to third base, which Chisholm against.
Sorry.
I mean, Chisholm against Ramirez. Nothing against Chisholm, but to be honest, he hasn't been good in the playoffs, even with his limited experience with the Marlins. He wasn't good in the playoffs, and he hasn't. Other than his homer, he hasn't been much of an offensive player for the Yankees. I do like his energy, even though a little rough around the edges, and some people don't like it. But obviously, Ramirez is Ramirez, even though he's having a horrible playoffs right now.
He's historically been bad in the playoffs. It's another thing. He's
except against one team.
The Yankees.
Yes.
So
he was excellent against the Yankees in the wild card in 2020, and in 2022 in the ALDS, he was even better than that. So historically, he's not the best playoff performer, but against the Yankees, he absolutely is.
So my feeling on this is, here's a guy that they need to really be careful around. Like, they're going to have to. Here's the situation. I see Kwan's on base. Nobody out or one out. You got Kwan either on second or first base, and you've got Ramirez stepping up. What do you do in that case? Is this a Judge situation where the Yankees have to literally walk? Are they careful?
If they think they can get Naylor out. I mean, when we start talking about some of the intangibles, you're hitting right on the nail on the head on some of the things that I want to talk about as far as the intangibles. Really, I think the Yankees lose out on the intangibles because they don't watch the game. And that's why Ramirez has kicked their butt in the 2 playoff series that they've had. I don't know what the Yankees are thinking in giving this guy pitches to hit. Even in the regular season, he was beating the crap out of the Yankees. He beats the crap out of them every which way and every which season. And yet the Yankees continue to try and do the same thing to him and expect a different result. And that's the problem I have. And this is obviously a monster edge. Not that Chisholm's a bad player, but Ramirez is just a Hall of Famer and one of the top 10 players of the last 10 years in Major League Baseball, if not top 5.
I agree. So I think there's no game here. It's not even close. There's only one area that I think that you have a similar dichotomy between the players. I mean, we know who that is.
Well, I think you have a similar dichotomy when we get to left field.
Yeah, that is true as well. So you've got the Yankees have obviously advantage in certain places and very clear advantage in left and center and right. I'm sorry, center and right.
Right, exactly.
And but I think that I think Jose is none of those questions. He's a generational player. 40-40, almost hit 40-40 this year, which is incredible. I mean, considering his body type, you don't think he is a burner.
Very similar career stats to Soto.
Yeah.
He's a switch hitter, and he's a plus defender.
That's right. So I love him. I love him as a player. I find it hard not to like him. He's one of those guys that I just,
absolutely.
I enjoy watching him play just because he's one of those players that just play the game so well. I don't know how many strikeouts he has in a season normally, but I'd love to see it. But he doesn't strike out quite as much as some of these other guys do. Let's take a look, actually. I'm interested since I asked my own question.
You're answering your own question.
All right. So God almighty, look at this season. He had 39 home runs, he had 41 stolen bases. His average was lower than you'd expect, and his on base percentage is only 335. Why is that? He doesn't walk.
No,
He doesn't take any walks.
no, he doesn't
So
walk.
that is an interesting thing. So his OPS, as when you would think it should be close to 1,000, it's only 872. You know,
Well, last year was only 831 as well, which is
you
interesting.
know, his lifetime is 856.
Right.
So that's lower than you would think for a guy who's got exactly 1,500 hits.
Well, yeah, and the big difference. I mean, the guy strikes out in as much as 80 times a year, and he was walking in the 70s most years that he hadn't been hurt, um, except for one year in 2018, um, where he actually played some shortstop for them, which was crazy.
What do you think of this? 5'9". First of all, if he's 190, I'm 260. So he's 5'9", 190. There is no way he's 190. The guy's built like a tank.
Yeah, he's about as good as they get.
And he probably isn't 5'9". I bet he's shorter than that.
Well, they're all shorter. They're all shorter than that, except for Judge and Stanton.
Yeah.
So now we jump to left field where we have Verdugo, and then
before that,
maybe
wait a minute.
Dominguez.
Let's do something. Let's hold the line. Let's play one of our guys. Do you think we should play somebody?
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
I think, why don't we welcome a new guy? We want to thank this guy. This is a teammate of ours from Yankee camp. Tony. Tony is a great guy. He's a big Yankee fan. He's grandfather, quite an interesting fella too, and we're happy to have him here. Now that I'm done kissing his old gazoo, we're going to
Tony Lettieri.
Tony. Which one is first? I always forget.
Well, since the second one says previous note, let's go this one first. I got it.
Got it.
This is Tony from New York Yankee Fantasy Camp. I would not start Luis Gil in Game 1 of the AL Championship Series because he tends to be a bit unstable early in the game, walking people, and we don't want to fall behind 2, 3, or maybe even 4 runs. He does eventually settle down, but it could be too late by then. We need to score early and take a lead and put pressure.
Well, wait, he continued.
So adding to my previous note, I think at the outset of a game, Luis Gil can be a bit nervous, and it tends to result in walking people, putting runners on, running up the pitch count. He eventually does settle down. I think he's more suited in the playoffs to coming in the 5th, 6th, or 7th inning. But the idea here is to score runs, take an early lead rather than give up the lead, and put pressure
on the Guardians.
Right.
Hey, he's a rookie. He ran out of time.
That's fine. We'll talk about. We're going to thank Tony, and then we're going to come back to answer the question, your input, right, because I think we'll talk about pitching.
And it's in response to a text string message that I started.
Yeah. So we love it. Thank you, Tony. Great question.
And Bay Meadow Bill also has a question about pitching. Let's hold him off until then as well.
Okay.
And let's just hit to Verdugo and Dominguez, and then we'll come back to Tony and Bay Meadow Bill. So obviously Dominguez didn't see the light of day, and right now I don't see any reason to let him see the light of day. Even though I was at the beginning of the series, I would rather have seen Dominguez and not Verdugo. There's no reason to really sit Verdugo, even though he's not really hitting. He's not hurting them. He's not grounding into as many double plays, although he's hit some soft grounders again. But he's hit them so soft that he's beaten them out, and they've only been force plays. But he played pretty good, darn good defense against Kansas City. And Dominguez hasn't done anything so far. But then we go against the man from the town next to mine, not Michelle, but Daniel Kwan. Is this Daniel Kwan?
No, it's not. It's not Daniel Kwan. It's Steven.
Stephen Kwan.
Stephen
Kwan. He's from the town next to mine. And, his playoff career has been great forever. He was great against the Yanks in the 22 ALDS. He was even better against Detroit in the ALDS this year. He's out of control good. He's a terror on the bases. He refuses to strike out, although he struck out 3 times so far in the playoffs. He's hitting 524 with a 571 slug and a 565 OPS. I mean, these numbers are out of control.
Yeah. I don't understand how this guy doesn't hit 400. He is so good.
Nobody hits 400.
Nobody does. But why doesn't he hit 350? He's one of those guys he's going to win a batting.
Well, he got off to a slow start this year.
I remember because when the Yanks played him early in the year, they were talking about how disappointing he was early, and then of course he came on to have another Quan season. He hit 292. 368 on base. But what stands out for me is the guy is just impossible to strike out. 51 strikeouts in a year. That's not like it's not. I'm not saying that's Yogi Berra type where Yogi and DiMaggio would strike out 40 times a year, but it's pretty close, and it just shows you how hard on the bat this guy is. This is the kind of guy the Yankees need. If the Yankees could pick up one guy to turn them into a perennial winner, it would be this kind of guy, because this is what they miss. This is the type of player that they miss.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it, guys. This is his 3rd full season. His first season, he walked 62 times and struck out 60 and hit 298 with a 373 on base. His in 2023, he had 70 walks and 75 strikeouts, but he only hit 268, but he had a 340 on base. This year, he had 53 walks and 51 strikeouts at 292 with a 368 on base. One of the things that we've been talking about for weeks and weeks, the Yankees are all about OPS, and I'm thinking, no, you're 1 hitter, you're 8 hitter, you're 9 hitter, and traditionally you're 2 hitter, but not when it's Soto, although Soto fits the bill. They need to have a 350 or higher on base percentage. The higher the on base percentage, the more runs you're going to score because you're setting them up for your Sotos and your Judges and your Stantons and your Wells and your guys who are going to have a high OPS, but probably not have, other than Judge, a 370 on base percentage. And that's the way the teams were built. I mean, he's the perfect leadoff hitter right now in Major League Baseball.
There's one thing that he did that really surprises me. He only had 16 doubles this year. He only had 19. He only had 33 extra base hits.
Right.
When you think of, as opposed to Judge, who had over 90.
I don't care. I don't care if the guy is going to have a 370 on base percentage. He only stole 12. He hasn't stolen a lot of bases, except
not this year.
He seems to steal against the Yankees nonstop. But
why is that?
We'll get to that too. But he's just a prototypical traditional leadoff hitter, and and he runs the bases so smart. He plays a very good left field. He's actually better fielder than Verdugo with less of an arm than Verdugo. But he's a typical left fielder and a typical leadoff hitter. And he's the type of guy every team should have leading off if they can. And it used to be that there were more of these Stephen Kwan types running around baseball, but there aren't anymore.
I think that's the thing. It's so I miss this guy so much in the game. I miss Mickey Rivers. I miss that type of guy who would just, Mickey obviously stole a lot more than this guy does, but he wreaks havoc the same way. And he steals against the Yankees for the obvious reason. Now, Dugo, just to talk about the outfield, I don't even know if we're going to see an inning of Martian. I hope we do, because I think they're going to need his bat late in the game against some of these bullpen arms. But Verdugo, I think he's a complete bust hitting right now. I think he's lost. I'm glad he had a couple of good hits early in the first game, but he's reverted right back to the same thing. Soft contact, grounding to the right side. You're saying he didn't ground into double plays because the Yankees had no one on base? I mean,
he grounded into 3/4 plays because he hit it so soft that they couldn't turn the double play.
Yeah, and that's bad. So my feeling is he's gonna help them to have him out there. The defense was beautiful. I don't think he looked bad on any play out there, except the great catch that he made, which I thought he kind of made it greater than it had to be.
I agree.
But everything else, I thought he looked great. I'm just happy to have him out there. But they're going to need offense, so he better hit a little bit, because if he doesn't, I see him coming. I don't know how they're going to do it, but do they bring him out, and then who do they put out in left field in the ninth inning, in a close game? Do they put who's going to go? Who plays left field in this case? Oh, what's his name? Grisham. Do they put Grisham out there on left for defensive purposes late in the game?
Yeah, because they're not going to put Judge in left, and I don't know. Will Grisham play left? It's we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, let's get to some happy Yankee news. Center field.
Center field. That I'm giving that to the Guardians also. That's that one.
Lane Thomas over Judge. I absolutely. I don't see how anybody
because he's hitting well in the playoffs. Why don't we listen to some of these numbskulls in the New York market right now who are saying that they should bench Judge because he's not hitting well, or trade him. My favorite is, let's get some value for him while we can, because he's done. I heard Michael Kay literally hang up on 3 guys in a row.
3 straight callers. I heard this. 3 straight callers he hung up on.
Yes.
It was great.
I couldn't believe it.
It was absolutely. I mean, yeah. And then even one guy who wanted to swap him and Soto, he hung up on that guy too. He's like, just leave him alone. He's going to hit eventually. I have news for you. They won't win the series if he doesn't hit.
That's that. Well, we'll go to that. I'm with you.
But clearly, Judge. Lane Thomas is a very good player. He was having a really bad season in Washington until they traded him, and even then, when he came over to Cleveland from Washington,
they didn't like him at all.
Yeah, but now his playoffs have been fantastic.
Great, good. I don't care. I mean, he can be the great. This is the biggest. Do you think it's not the biggest disparity between
Soto's bigger disparity because Noel, is only good on Christmas.
Are you going to sing again? I want
no
to hear
more
you sing the
singing.
song.
I will not sing. I will not sing because what listeners we may have will leave. It's bad enough I used the picture of us this week for this show. But yeah, I mean, clearly Judge over time. There's not much to talk about here. And then you got Soto and Noel.
Forget it. It's
not even what we're talking about. It's such a huge edge.
All right. Now what about catching?
Catching. Yankees have an edge of catching, but they don't have an edge of catching.
Because they have the edge, yeah. Because
they have an edge of catching because they are better defensive catchers in framing and blocking, and they are better, as bad as Wells was, or as Trevino could be. They're better offensively than Hedges and Bo Naylor, and those guys are just terrible offensively. But the bigger problem the Yankees have is that, the Guardians are going to run all over them.
There it is. So this is going to be. It's interesting to see what they're doing now to fix that, because I don't know how they're going to. They certainly, if we even see, if we can even smell Trevino, within 10 minutes of an inning behind the plate, we're in trouble. So that to me that's what they're dreaming of. They're dreaming that Wells, gets taken out for a base runner or something late in the game, and that they get to see Trevino, or of course an injury, which is something we would never hope for.
Other than Boyd, do they even have a lefty starter?
I don't think they do.
No.
So that's not happening. So
yeah, the Yankees have a slight edge, or it's even at best, because the running game reverts. Even with Wells catching, they're going to run on the Yankees because that's what they do.
So they're what's Naylor like behind the plate?
He's not a bad defender, and Hedges isn't a bad defender, but neither.
But can he hit? He was 0 for 11.
No, neither one of them can hit. Neither one of them can hit. And Hedges has spent the last couple of years in the minors.
All right, so I remember Hedges was a Yankee prospect once. So it wasn't. You know what? I had him on one of my my fantasy games. I strike that. Even great men mess up.
When he was on the Padres?
Yeah. And did the Yankees send him? No, that's not it. Same guy, different guy. But what I want to ask you about is Wells. Come on, can Wells continue to be this bad? I mean, I I can't begin to. It's just so shocking to me that this guy's 2 for 16 and he's striking out this much. It's like, come on, let's go. You're the number 4 batter for the Yankees. Now, do you think the Yankees should flip flop? Do you think they should move, you
Dan,
know, Stanton to the number 4 slot? I love the idea of it, but except that when you think about it, they're going to be throwing right-handers anyway. They don't have any lefties anyhow, so it doesn't really, does it really matter if
that's the big thing is Cleveland does not have left-handed pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
Even coming out of the pen,
Yeah.
they don't really have any left-handed pitchers. So flip-flopping those guys could be interesting. But
Yeah.
then you're also, if they do have they have a couple of, they have a lefty out of the pen that they could use.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot which guys are the lefties that they have. But the I'm looking at the depth chart, right? So if you have the lefties out of the pen would be Heron, who's not bad, is a lefty out of the pen. And then the other lefty out of the pen is Sabrowski, who does see the light of day and did see the light of day in the division series. So they do have 2 lefties that they could bring in to face Wells and Chisholm back to back. Geez, Wells and Chisholm back to back. But then then you're going to have the lefty in there to face Volpe, and that'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to kill them to put Stanton right behind Judge. It would be an interesting switch of things to do. But maybe they think they can get something out of Chisholm, and they move him up and they slide Wells all the way down to the 7 hole and move Volpe up into the 6 hole. If Volpe keeps having good at bats, although I love Volpe to be the 9 hitter, but can't be on this team. But yeah. I mean, Stanton at DH, Yankees have a big edge at DH. I mean, obviously Stanton has to stay hot. He destroyed Cleveland in 09 in the division series.
That's right.
I mean, not in 09, was not in 09, in 20.
In 22.
22. He destroyed them, just like he destroyed Kansas City. So if he can do that again, but it's a whole different team. I mean, the pitching staff is completely different. But there's really, Fry and Monzordo or whatever his name is. Fry had a clutch homer, but that was as a pinch hitter. But they haven't done anything out of the DH slot. From a lineup perspective, the Yankees have a significant edge, but you never know when the Yankees are going to disappear. And then the interesting stat, lineup-wise, you were talking about how the Guardians don't strike out. So far in the playoffs, the Guardians are striking out 24.7% of the time, and the Yankees only 22% of the time. So the Yankees are striking out a heck of a lot less
Was that
than the
because
Guardians
of
are.
Was he striking everybody out?
It wasn't just
striking
Skubal.
everybody out in his
Everybody, because they didn't strike out. They didn't strike out. They didn't. They did. They struck out a lot at Skubal. They struck out against everybody on Detroit. But the other thing is that they're not walking either. Their walk to strikeout ratio is, Yankees is 0.96, which is basically Yankees are walking and striking out at the same pace.
Well,
whereas the
they're
Guardians,
walking. This is the thing. The walking has been amazing, and they have to keep that going.
yes,
But they need to get some. They need 2-out hits. I think they had maybe 3 2-out hits in the whole series.
right. And the Guardians are not
disaster.
walking. Guardians are not walking at all. The
Yeah,
Guardians,
but they don't.
the Guardians,
That-
but we'll see what happens when they play the Yankees. But they're more of a swinging team, and they always have been. But they're usually not a strikeout team, and they've been striking out in the playoffs.
That's a good thing. If that continues, then that is a big advantage for the Yankees. That's going to help the Yankees. I'm just afraid that the Yankees don't have the strikeout arms to do it.
Well, that's why I think they're starting Rodon over Schmidt. Is Rodon, even when he was bad, he was striking everybody out against Kansas City. He had 7 strikeouts in his less than 3-inning outing.
Yeah, I'm not confident about Rodon in this situation because of this team. Now he pitched well against this team. He had 1 good start. No, he didn't. It was actually Nestor who had the good start. But what do you think? I mean, all right, let's talk about the starters. quickly.
Well, I want to say, the fact that they're not starting Cole in game one, if you go all the way back to 2008, right? CC Sabathia got traded from the Cleveland Indians to the Milwaukee Brewers. And he got there, in August, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
He basically pitched on
every
3 days.
every game for the rest of
He basically pitched every fourth game
probably
from
shortened his career by
September
5
1st
years.
on. Now, granted, he did not pitch well in the playoffs for the Brewers, but he did carry them on his back into the playoffs in 2008. And, do you think the Yankees even approached Cole about pitching on 3 days rest and then saying, would you pitch games 1, 4, and 7 instead of games 2 and 6? Do you think they approached him?
Yeah, no.
I don't think they even approached him.
They didn't even go near it. Because,
No.
again, the Yankees believe in the Torrey philosophy that the game 2 is the most important. And, they
Game 2 is
really
the most important when you're on the road. I think game 2 is the most important when you're on the road, because if you can take one when you're on the road, you got to split.
Then you have a home field. You almost have home field advantage.
The other axiom is it's not a series until the road team wins a game, right?
Yeah.
It's not a series until the road team wins a game. And if the Yankees lose game 1, a little bit of pressure on Cole. But, the Guardians starting pitching. So if the Yankees go with Rodon, Cole, Schmidt, and Heel, because they said Heel's going to start a game in this. If the Yankees are down 3-0 and Heel starts, whatever, because they're down 3-0. That's, only the Red Sox can do that. Anyhow, the problem the Yankees have is that the Guardians get zero distance out of their starters. I mean, BB and Boyd didn't even go. BB went 5, I think.
I have the numbers here. Of the 45 innings they played, only 18 innings were started by a starter, which is really amazing when you think about it. So, I mean, not that the Yankees were that much better. I mean, BB had the 1.6.2. I think BB had a good, and Cobb went 8.2. But Boyd's 3 innings, I mean, that's amazing. I couldn't believe they took him out, but that's, according to my niece, who was at the game with a colleague who works for the team, his thinking on it was that they really are worried. They watched these at bats. They're big believers in turning over the bullpen, turning over the lineup. That
with that bullpen, you can't blame them. I mean, BB had 2 starts and went 8 innings. Boyd had 2 starts and went 6 innings. And Cobb went 1 start and went 3 innings.
That kind of bullpen. Do you remember when the Yankees used to do that, and we used to look forward to getting to the 6th? You feel the adrenaline.
You'd have Stanton, Nelson, Rivera, or if you needed Mendoza, Stanton, Nelson, Rivera, and they would figure out how to make it happen. And the Guardians are exactly the same thing. To them, it's a 6-inning game, and they can get to Smith and Clase and go from there. Smith and Clase and Herron Hernan or whatever his name is, would be their guys that they go to every game. And
so it's obvious. We know that they have the advantage in the bullpen. The Yankees have the advantage in the starting.
Although the Yankee bullpen hasn't allowed a run.
The Yankee bullpen can they continue? Listen, the big 3, you gotta love. I'm very happy with. We maligned him on a daily basis. We only are on once a week. We still maligned him on a daily basis. Our friend Holmes. He's great. I think that he's able to do.
Listen, I still think
he's not a mental eggplant in the 6th inning.
Right, but what I'm thinking is this is again going back to Michael Kay and him talking about Holmes, and everybody was jumping on Holmes. I'm news for you. As good as Holmes pitched in this series, I would not have brought him in the 8th inning. I would have let Cole go back out there. Mm-hmm. I would have let Cole back out there. He's your best pitcher, and I would have let him go back out there. And if a guy got on base, then I would have gone to Holmes. But, it worked. but I don't want to hear Holmes this, Holmes that. He's the greatest setup man since sliced bread. You know what? Cole's still a better pitcher, and Cole was great, except for right after the bench clearing incident where he lost his focus a little bit. But he got right back on his horse and got out of the inning eventually. So, I'm still a little nervous about the Yankee pen. Yes, Holmes was good. Weaver was good. Canley was good. Hamilton was good. They all pitched well. Nobody allowed any runs. It was all well and good and wonderful. I don't think they should let Leiter see the light of day on the roster under any circumstances.
No.
Do
you think they go with another bat, or are they going to go with another? They're going to add another.
Put it this way, I think they got to go another bullpen guy because it's a 7-game series. So the question is, who do they go with? If you listen to Kramer, he'd love them to have Nestor, but I have no idea. Nestor was supposed to throw today, and then they would decide what's going on with him. But Stroman's not really a bullpen piece. So, and Warren, you don't want Warren in there unless he's going to be a sacrificial lamb in a game that you're going to get your ass kicked. So I don't know what the choices are that they have. Do they do Beater or Efros? I don't want Leiter, although that's the guy they're going to pick. Because they have to prove that.
What is the Efros situation? How is he?
He's fine. I mean, none of these guys pitched well at the end of the year. Beater didn't pitch well. Efros didn't pitch awful. Leiter was lit up. And Warren is not the answer. So I don't know what the choices are. But they need another bullpen arm that's out there. Ellis is the first guy that's going to sit. And if Rizzo comes back, Rice goes off the roster. But I don't want to go to 13 pitchers under any circumstances. That's just too many. 12 is the right number. And having the depth on the bench, especially if you have a guy like Rizzo who you don't know if he's going to last.
Yeah.
You need to have.
Well, they don't need Ellis. They don't need Ellis, period.
No, Ellis. And if your pinch runner is now Birdie, right? Because if Rizzo's playing, Birdie and Cabrera become your pinch runners.
Yeah, which is fine. I can have Birdie. I think Birdie's as fast as anybody. So
right. And Birdie's a very smart base runner. And from what
did you see Ellis when he did his one running? I thought he looked like he was so scared. I was like, this poor guy. It's one chance to get in there, and he's like this.
Yeah, and if you remember, I think it was one of the Carroll brothers. One of the Carroll brothers said that Ellis on the bases is sometimes an adventure. Hey, we got to get to Bay Meadows. Bill, he was talking about the pitching. Let's go back to that real quick.
Obviously, Rondon can be brilliant until he isn't anymore, as seen by his early exit against the Royals. Given that the Guardians are offensively one of the better hitting teams against left-handed pitching, how concerned are you that there could be a repeat performance as far as Rondon going later into the game?
What do you think?
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. My problem is he got all pumped up and he was all excited and it felt like he was done. He had cracked he was going to have this great game, and then he just fell apart after the home run. The minute he gave up the home run to Salvatore, I knew it was done. He was done. I knew it. I said he's going to fold now because he's nervous. He's going to change all that aggressiveness. Is all going to come out to hurt him. And I think he came up too pumped, and he just blew out. He exhausted himself out there with 2 innings of that dominance. I'm worried about it. I'm absolutely worried about it. I think that
he doesn't. He seems to have, as they like to say, he seems to have a long refractory period after he shoots his load.
He's not going to handle. He's not going to give up home runs to this team. He might give up a big one to.
Well, he would give it up to Ramirez. He could give it up to Naylor.
He's not going to get. But he's not going to strike out Kwan. He's not going to strike out these guys. He's not. These guys are going to be on
adrenaline.
Base, so
I think the adrenaline got to him, and if he wasn't throwing the right pitches, meaning that the right pitches were not being thrown, was he shaking off Wells? Were the calls coming from from Blake? Was Wells just putting down the wrong fingers, so to speak, or pushing the wrong buttons as they do now? It's really, I'm curious about that. He had a really good season, especially in the second half. He put itself together. Let's hope he can do that. If they can get through game 1 and Rodon pitches well, I just, that's their best hope at this series.
No
But
doubt. No doubt.
so, and from a bench perspective, neither team, Yankees have a little bit better bench, I think, especially if Rizzo's on the team, because that puts Birdie and Cabrera on the bench with Dominguez and Trevino. Um, Whereas the Guardians bench is, you know, their backup catcher who can't hit. Fry is their DH, so he's going to be in the lineup. So they don't have much as far as their bench goes.
This
But
is a
neither team has
team.
an overly strong bench.
This team relies on the Guardians rely on one dimension to beat them. Actually, two. They're very, very good with their bullpen is amazing, and they hope they can get enough runs to get to them. It's just, whatever it takes to score. What I like about them is they will do everything they need to do to get a run in. They will steal a base. They're gonna take a walk if they have to. They'll do anything they can to get on base. They'll make a lot of contact and force errors. This is how they win. They're not going to kill you in any way, but what they do is they rely on that bullpen, and so that's why the key to this whole thing is not getting to the bullpen, getting on their starters. They have to hit their starters so that they're not behind in the sixth inning. Otherwise, it's going to be a very painful flight home.
Listen, Torres has to stay how Torres has been since September. I actually have more confidence in Torres staying hot than I do Stanton staying hot, because Stanton's hot and cold don't have any rhyme or reason.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
Totally.
but Stanton stays hot. That's good. Soto just has to be Soto. And then, like I said to you, the Yankees don't win this series if Judge doesn't wake up.
Yeah.
Volpe has to keep having good at bats, even though he's punching Judy. Wells has to be better. Verdugo has to be not hitting it to double plays. But ultimately, it has to come down to that. The Guardians are going to grind, and then grind some more. They're going to run the bases more aggressively than any team that the Yankees faced, except for Boston. The Yankees have to learn not to let Ramirez, not to let Naylor, and somehow or other handle Kwan better, and have a lead when it goes to the bullpen. And I think the big edge that the Guardians have is that they make their decisions based on watching the game. They watch the game, and that's how they play. Each game can be played absolutely different than the game before it, and they're very comfortable with that. And that goes back to what you said. They will do what is needed to be done to win the game, and that could change from game to game. And that is the Yankees' biggest weakness. This is where they're being slaves to analytics. The Yankees are going to do what the Yankees are going to do, come hell or high water. They don't care to watch the game. And that's the bottom line. And that's where the Guardians have the edge. And I think that's the biggest edge that the Guardians have. The biggest edge they have is that they play the game in multiple different ways, and they're willing to do what they need to do to win the game that's in front of them, which in the playoffs is exactly what you need to do. Whereas in 162 games in the season, all right, over time, the analytics work themselves out. But in the playoffs, they don't. And that goes back to it's not a crapshoot. Watch the game. Know your players, know what they can do, know what they can't do. If Verdugo can't get down a bunt, get Birdie in there. We know Birdie can bunt, right? Yeah. Birdie can bunt, and everybody knows it. If Verdugo can't get down a bunt when it's first and second and nobody out in the third inning, you know what? Get him out of there. I don't want to see a freaking double play. If it's the sixth inning, absolutely get him out of there. Because the Yankees have to watch the game that's in front of them, and that's why I'm saying the Guardians are winning in 7.
Got it. And wow, I totally disagree with that. I say Yankees in 6, but I don't think the Yankees are not going to hit. I think the Yankees are going to hit. I think the Yankees are going to bomb their starters. I think they're going to nail these guys. I see the Yankees up scoring 5-6 runs in this game before they see Class A. If they do that, they're going to win.
I absolutely agree. And I actually think if the Yankees win, it's going to be in 6.
I don't think there's any way they're not going to come. They're going to be better than they were in Kansas City. I think we're going to see Judge. Judge was beginning to look better in the last couple games. I'm a little upset that they had more. Oh, suddenly they have time off again. I would have almost liked him to go right into it, because I do think Judge suffers when he doesn't play enough, when he misses games. So I think that's a problem. But I see it. I see Wells, and I see Judge having really good series, and I see beyond the first game where he had 3 hits and he was amazing. I see Soto having a better series. I think Soto had an uneven series. He didn't have his best.
I'm not worried
could have
about
been better.
I'm not
Soto,
worried.
I see having a good series, and what I like also, they're not playing in Jellystone Park again. It's gonna be nice to be able to hit a couple of home runs in Cleveland, where they do hit well.
Well, who knows what the weather? Who knows what the weather's going to be in Cleveland?
Hey, maybe the Midgets are going to come out.
I know. I was going to say the Yankees should have Jabba Chamberlain throw out the first pitch on tomorrow.
That would be very funny. I would love it.
I would get him a big hat.
Okay, let's get to the. So you're saying Yankees, and you're saying the.
No, I'm saying the Yankees are going to lose in 7. But I will tell you this: if the Yankees win Game 1 and Rodon pitches well, the reason that I think that'll turn the series and they'll win in 6 is because they have Cole pitching Game 2 and Game 6. But I
have a problem with you on this one. I'm going to call you out on this. You can't say if they win, then they're going to finish in 6.
Well,
if they
I don't see them winning it. I just don't. If I had to tell, I'm choosing. I'm sticking to my pick. I said the Guardians were going to beat the Yankees, and I think the Guardians are going to beat the Yankees in 7 for the reasons that I cited, which is they play every game as if it's the last game of their lives, and they have to win the game in order to survive. And that's the intangible that the Yankees don't have. And even though the Yankees are the better team, the Yankees are not going to win. And the only way I think the Yankees winning is if Judge wakes up and all of a sudden Rodon pitches really well, because he's pitching 1 and 5.
I see Yankees winning in 6 because Judge will hit. Judge, Soto, and Wells will finally hit and keep them ahead early in the game. They'll hit early in the game, and then their bullpen will be strong enough to hold off the Guardians coming back, because I think the Yankee bullpen isn't as good as the other ones, but I think they're plenty good enough to hold off these batters. None of these batters scare me that much, except Ramirez and Kwan. Everyone else, I think they can manage. Everyone else in that order, they can win.
Well, I think that the Yankees, again, don't watch the game, and they're going to let themselves get beat by Ramirez, Naylor, and Kwan. And I just think the Yankees are going to lose because they're stupid. Basically, it comes down to they're going to lose because
Michael, Guardians in 7.
Yep. And you said Yankees in 6. So
Yanks in 6.
And I said Yanks lose because they're stupid. So let's just do real quick because we're running out of time here. Who do you think is going to win, Mets or Dodgers?
I think the Dodgers. I really do. I think it's going to be Dodgers.
Why do you think
I'm amazed that the Mets have gone this far, but I think the Dodgers are going to win on. They're going to outclass them with. They're not going to be able to handle Betts and Shohei. Shohei's going to hit 4 home runs. Watch.
All right. So I think the Dodgers starting pitching is worse than the Guardians starting pitching.
Well, not the other night.
Yamamoto was good. He gave him a little bit of length, but Buehler is not Buehler by any stretch of the imagination. He's definitely more like Ferris than Walker. And, they went with, what was his name? Brazier was the other guy that they started.
Yeah, that amazed me.
Yeah,
but,
they don't.
Hey, they beat a good team. They beat a very good team.
Hey, listen, I picked the Padres.
I know.
Who'd have thought the Padres wouldn't score a run for 18 innings?
Padres are better than the Mets, and they beat the Padres. That's how I think. The Mets are playing over their head.
And the Dodgers bullpen was fantastic after not being that good during the regular season.
And that's what the Mets have not been able to do. They have not seen a good bullpen. Everybody the Mets have played this past week have had bad bullpens, or have bullpens that are not performing.
Well, yeah, but the situation with the Mets is they have Severino, who, when he's good, he is so good.
God, I hate that.
And then they went to the bargain bin and got Quintana and Manaea, 2 left-handers who have been very, very good.
Yeah,
for them all season. And, the second-tier free agencies. And they do need – listen, Diaz has to be consistent, and he hasn't been. But their other bullpen pieces have been really good.
Should we play John the Greek, even though because he's asking that question?
Well, we'll get to John the Greek in a second because I'm picking the Mets in 6.
Wow.
I think it's going to be
No,
the hot Mets are going to win because their at bats, they've been grinding them and they've been doing what they need to do to win the games, just like my reason picking the Guardians. So let's see what Johnny the Greek has to say. I had a hero yesterday, so I'm very much in love with Johnny the Greek.
Dodgers, Yankees, or Mets, Yankees? Which would you like to see? Personally, I'd like to see another Subway Series because the world revolves around New York.
Thank you for telling us what we already know.
Being that I live in California and the racetrack out on the peninsula in San Mateo was called Bay Meadows. I'm assuming this Bay Meadows Bill is from Queens. I'm not even picking the Yankees, so I don't really have a say in this. But Yankees Dodgers, I'm going 100% against what Major League Baseball wants, which is Yankees Dodgers, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts that they want the Dodgers and the Yankees, LA and New York. That's what they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going dead set against it by picking the Mets and the Guardians. If I'm the Yankee, I don't care who they play in the World Series if the Yankees get to the World Series. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens.
I think it's I'll go. I would rather the Dodgers just because, as good as it would be for New York, it would be a great thing. New York needs a little kick in the. It would be nice to have a world champion in New York. New York could really use having the World Series champion here. But I just don't think my son would survive.
What's your son have to do with it?
Jamie has very good friends that are Met fans, and there'd be this so much tension between them that I worry that he might not be. The top of his head might explode. If Holmes blows the sixth inning lead. I think that it would be exciting. I went to the Subway Series. I loved it. I was at the Clemens and Piazza game. I'll never forget that series. I had a wonderful experience.
Get tossed for that. That was a joke.
So another conversation for another time. So I told you I think it's Dodgers in 6, so I think it's Yankees Dodgers.
And I think it'll be Yankees and Mets if the Yankees make it because I picked the Mets. We have one more person who seems a little confused. Let's play his call.
Is today Thursday?
That would be Frankie the Yankee.
Frankie the Yankee.
Always coming up because he's not used to this.
A man of many words, but we do appreciate the 3. So anyway, off we go. I gotta go. I want to go watch the Mets, and
I will see you, and we will decide if the Yanks play Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we've got to figure out what we want to do show wise. Because the games will be at 4:30 my time, 7:30 your time. So we got to figure out.
We'll talk about it and see what we can.
And we'll figure out when our next show is. But our predictions are in. Adam's got them written down, and I'm sure we'll get them all wrong. And the World Series will be the Padres and the Tigers.
There it is.
Speak to you later.
Go Yankees! Go Yankees! Go!